Role of a producer. That's an interesting question in that it's a job requirement that has no qualifications. So anybody in the world can say, I'm a producer, you know. But I think over the years, being a session keyboard player, when I used to do a lot of records back in LA and even here in Nashville, the good producers were the ones that could find something special in an artist, something unique, a quality that they had. And I always enjoyed working with producers who were forefront type producers, where they would do new things and inventive things instead of just following what everybody else does. But I think the job of the producer, I mean, technically by contract, is to deliver a stereo acceptable master. That's what a record company says in the contract. But it's so much more than that. I think it's finding, everybody has a gift. Everybody has something that they can do better than anybody else. And I think a producer's job is to find that and pull that out of an artist. When I went to school, I was a math student. That was my thing. And I was always good with numbers. So I got a scholarship to college, and I think about 3 years of slogging into it, I decided I didn't want to be a mathematician. It got way out. So I switched over. I got a psychology degree from UCLA with a minor in math. When I got out of school, it was like I had just fulfilled the parental obligation. I went to college, I got a degree, I'm here. So now what am I going to do? I had the fortune of playing piano and playing gigs through college to kind of make the extra money. I worked weekends in a band for many years. And I thought, you know, this is really fun. It was a hobby. And so I said, oh, let's really make your life miserable and make your hobby your job. But I said, I'll take a year. I just literally said, I'm going to take a year and let's see what happens. You know, I kind of threw it all off to chance and said, let's see what goes on here. And at the end of that first year out of college, I was working with an up-and-coming songwriter named Paul Williams. And it was interesting. We had an interesting band. The guitar player was from the Righteous Brothers. Colin Cameron had done a ton of stuff from the Burrito Brothers and other guys around LA. And then there was a drummer who worked with Steve Miller and Van Morrison and myself. And then Dave Garland joined in too, who played with Ike and Tina Turner. And he played B3 and beautiful sax. So I was playing with Paul Williams in Carnegie Hall. So I was like, this is cool. I think I'll do this. You know, well, it was a nice way to come into it, you know what I mean? Because I think it's a very competitive business. So I think you can't really be unrealistic in terms of your hopes. I mean, you have to be really real about this, especially today. I mean, I told people, I said, what's happened in the last 20 years is, I said, the funnel has gotten much wider at the top, but the tip of that funnel is still just this big, and only so many are going to get through. In the case of radio, you know, 30 songs. That's it. That's all you got, you know. So it's rough out there, so you've got to really, I think if you're going to be successful, you've got to really pursue yourself, what you do. Find out what you do better than anything else. In my case, how I got started was I started playing demos for people, you know. They didn't want to spend a lot of money. They just wanted to maybe spend a couple $100 and get a piano vocal demo of a song. The demo singer that I wound up working with a lot, we were just kids, we were both 25, was Kim Carnes. So we started, and I kept bumping into her all over town, you know. Hey, you know. And then I remember when the ARP manufacturing company came out with this little string ensemble. It was a real cheesy little thing, but you could simulate violins and stuff. And I remember Kim and I did a demo for a songwriter, Gloria Sklarov, I think was the songwriter, and it wound up on a Cher record. And I got a very important lesson early on in my career in that they wanted me in there. They were doing an orchestra, but they wanted me in there to play the parts on that string ensemble that I played on the demo. And then I realized that the orchestrator had literally transcribed all my parts, then put his name on it, arranged by. Okay. So, but that told me that I was on to something. So that kind of got going, and then I started doing records here and there, and I got a big break. I mean, I started hitting pretty good things in '74. Way back then, I did Mac Davis's TV show. So I'd been out of college like, you know, 2.5 years, and I jumped on that. And then Seals and Crofts in '76, did a year with them and did some touring and did an album. And then little things, smattering of things in between. In 1979, I think we had, or 1980, 1979, 80, Kim Carnes and we had a hit with More Love. It was a Smokey Robinson song, and I did that famous classical intro where the producer just said, "Give me something classical." I said, "Well, like what?" He goes, "I don't know." So I just whipped that off the top of my head, and then that's what gave me the reputation of being the intro king. And I learned about making records because it's like public speaking. You've got 10, 15 seconds to catch those people. If you lose them in that first 10 or 15 seconds, they're gone. They're on to the next record, on to the next movie, on to the next book, whatever it is. You know. After More Love, we had an opportunity to cut with Val Garay, who was the next producer in a series that Kim worked with over the years. And she had the song Betty Davis Eyes, and that was the one that broke it out for me. And then from there, then I was like everybody's best friend. You know, another intro arrangement thing that I did. And from there, then I got calls, and I got to work with Steve Perry, Henley, you know, David Coverdale, Whitesnake, REO Speedwagon, 38 Special, Kiss, Olivia Newton-John. I mean, the list goes on. Little River Band, all this. So for me, that was like, that's when I broke. But I was lucky. I mean, I was at the forefront of a time when the synthesizer was just coming out. It's a mathematical instrument. I married it, and I was always one of the advocates pushing for a synthesizer rather being than an oddity that you would add later. You would use as a principal instrument in a track. So, and that's what Betty Davis Eyes did, where I actually tracked with the synthesizer, and then it brought it into its own at that time. So that's how I got into it. I mean, it was kind of like being at the right place at the right time, I think. You know, I started writing, but I didn't really pursue it real seriously until I got here. Right before I got here, I think starting with Steve Perry, we started getting serious. But I was telling Paris, my first cut, I was writing at A&M, and that was back around the mid-'70s, and I got a cut on a Temptations album. That was my first cut. So I was over the moon, Alice. You know, it's like, wow, the Temps cutting one of my tunes. How cool is that? So, just being, I think a lot of it had to be at the right place, the right time, and the kind of mind to where I found it something that I could do better than everybody else. Once again, like what I'm telling, you know, your students and people who come to your site to learn what to do, find out what you can do that nobody else can do, and develop that talent and make a career out of it, because you can.